You're sitting at a table with friends, not arguing, not dominating the conversation, just listening. Later, someone pulls you aside. You know you're kind of intimidating. You almost laugh. Intimidating. You barely said 10 words all night. But here's the thing. This keeps happening. The coworker who gets defensive before you finish your sentence, the stranger at the bar who won't make eye contact, the friend who later admits, "I was nervous to talk to you at first." And if you're a woman, men will call you too much or hard to approach. If you're a guy, other men will say you're arrogant. Not because you're boasting, but because something about your presence makes them uncomfortable with themselves. You're standing there thinking, what am I doing wrong? Here's what you don't realize. Nothing. You're not doing anything wrong, but you are doing something powerful, and most people can't handle it. There are 7 specific signs this is happening to you. Psychological patterns that have a name. Social triggers you've never noticed. And once you see them, you'll finally understand why people react to you the way they do. Let's start with the most unsettling one. Sign 1. You're comfortable with silence, and it unnerves people. Most people treat silence like a vacuum that must be filled. They'll say anything, weather, weekend plans, random observations, just to keep things moving. You say nothing. You wait. And it makes people squirm. Research from the University of Groningen found that just 4 seconds of silence makes most people visibly uncomfortable. Heart rate spikes. They feel judged. They scramble. They scramble to fill the gap. But here's the thing, you're not judging them. You're just not performing. You're not using words as social currency to prove you belong or to manage other people's comfort. When you can sit in silence without anxiety, something shifts. They start hearing their own thoughts. They wonder what you're thinking. They feel exposed. And because you're the one who seems fine with it, you become the source of their discomfort. They'll laugh nervously, make a joke about how serious you are. Later, you'll hear them telling someone else you're intense or hard to read. What they really mean is, I can't control you with small talk. And that's the part that scares them. Sign 2. People tell you things that they don't tell anyone else. You're not a therapist. You don't prompt people to open up. But somehow, within 20 minutes of meeting you, strangers are confessing things they haven't told their closest friends. The woman at the coffee shop mentions her divorce. Your coworker suddenly talks about his fear of failure. It happens so often you've stopped being surprised by it. This isn't random. Psychologist Carl Rogers wrote about the power of unconditional positive regard. The rare ability to listen without judgment, agenda, or the need to fix. When you're not performing in conversation, when you're not waiting for your turn to speak or planning your response, people feel it. They sense that you're actually present. And in a world where most people are half listening while mentally rehearsing their next comment, your full attention is so rare it becomes magnetic. But here's the uncomfortable part. After they tell you their secrets, many people will pull away. You can see it happen. Their face changes. They suddenly remember they need to leave. And for the next week they avoid eye contact. And you'll wonder what you did wrong. You did nothing wrong. You witnessed them. And for many people, being truly seen is more terrifying than being ignored. Sign 3. You've been told you think too much. Someone asks your opinion about a movie. You pause. You think about the themes, the characters, what it reminded you of. Before you finish, they cut you off. Dude, it's just a movie. Or, why do you have to analyze everything? The smile doesn't reach their eyes. You just made them feel stupid without trying. You think too much isn't an observation. It's a complaint in disguise. What they mean is, your depth makes me aware of my own shallowness, and I don't like how that feels. Research in social psychology confirms it. People prefer partners who match their cognitive style. When you process more deeply than those around you, Your thoughtfulness becomes a mirror. And most people don't want to see what's reflected, so they'll minimize you, call you too serious. They'll suggest you just relax or not overthink it. But you're not overthinking, you're just thinking. And in a culture that rewards quick takes over careful ones, that's enough to make people uncomfortable. The truth is, you think too much really means your thinking reminds me I'm not thinking enough, and I hate you for it. Sign 4. Your absence changes the room. You don't dominate conversations. You don't try to be the center of attention. Sometimes you barely speak at all, but when you leave, people notice. Where's your name? Why didn't they come? Your friends tell you later the group wasn't the same without you. Here's what's strange. You don't hold court. You barely talk. But when you're there, something shifts. People can't gossip as freely, can't half-ass their opinions, can't be as petty. Not because you're judging, just because you're there. Research on group dynamics shows that even one quiet, thoughtful person changes how a group behaves. People speak more carefully, think before reacting, are more honest. They don't know whether to respect you or avoid you. And you're in your head wondering if you should talk more, whether you're contributing enough, yet whether you even belong. That's the irony. The person everyone adjusts around is the only one who doesn't know it. Sign 5. People get defensive when you haven't accused them of anything. You make a neutral observation. You ask a simple question, and suddenly the other person is explaining themselves, justifying their choices, getting worked up about something you never challenged. You say, "Oh, you're reading that book?" And they launch into why it's actually good, even though critics hated it. You didn't say it was bad, you just noticed it. You ask one clarifying question in a meeting. The person presenting immediately gets defensive, over-explains, maybe talks down to you. You weren't challenging them, but your attention felt like a challenge. This is what happens when your energy has weight. Your attention carries authority you didn't ask for and might not want. When you notice something, people feel seen in a way that makes them self-conscious. Research on social evaluation confirms it. People become more defensive around those they perceive as truly observant. If they think you're actually paying attention, they become aware you might see things they don't want seen. Their defensiveness isn't about what you said. It's about what they're afraid you noticed. Sign 6. You're more interested in understanding than being right. Someone says something you disagree with. Most people immediately start building their counter-argument, waiting for their turn to correct. You ask questions. You want to understand why they think that way. You're genuinely curious about their perspective, even if you don't share it. And this willingness to explore without needing to win is deeply unsettling to people who treat every conversation like a debate. Most people need to be right to feel secure. When you're more interested in truth than victory, you expose that need. You make their ego visible, and they resent you for it, even if they can't articulate why. You've lost friends over this, not because you were mean, but because you wouldn't just agree. You asked, "Why do you think that?" when they wanted validation, and they took it as an attack. They'll say you're playing devil's advocate, that you always have to be different. What they mean is you refuse to let them stay comfortable in something they'd never actually examined. Sign 7. You see what people want ignored. The tension in the room everyone's pretending isn't there. The contradiction in what someone just said. The pattern that's been repeating for months. You see it. And even when you say nothing, they know. They feel your awareness, and they resent you for it. Not because you're judging, but because now they can't pretend it's not there. You're not intimidating because you're aggressive or loud. You're intimidating because you're real in a world that runs on performance. Present when most people are half checked out. Comfortable with depth in spaces built for shallow. And when comfortable people encounter something real, their first instinct is to retreat. Nobody tells you the price of this. People will call you intimidating when they mean, "You make me uncomfortable with myself." They'll say you're too intense when they mean, "You ask for more than I'm willing to give." Some of that discomfort, it's jealousy. They wish they could be okay with silence, comfortable alone, clear in their thinking. But instead of admiring it, they resent it. And they'll make you feel like you're the problem. And it shows up differently, depending on who you are. If you're a woman, they won't call you intimidating directly. They'll say you're a lot, too opinionated, too serious. They'll soften it with "you're so intense," like it's a flaw to be fixed. Men will mistake your stillness for coldness, your boundaries for bitchiness, your confidence for arrogance, and then tell you to smile more. If you're a man, other men will clock your quiet and call it arrogance, not because you're boasting, but because you're not performing for them. You're not laughing at the right things or competing for status in the ways they understand. Your calm makes their noise feel embarrassing. So, they'll label you weird, standoffish, too much in your head. Both versions of this come from the same place. Your presence asks something of people they're not used to giving. The loneliness of this kind of power is that you didn't ask for it. You might not even believe you have it. And it often costs you easy belonging. Watching people connect effortlessly over small talk while you sit there, wondering if you're doing something wrong by wanting more. Sometimes on a Friday night when you said no to plans that felt empty, you'll wonder if you should try harder to be lighter, easier, less. Don't. There are people out there who will meet you and finally be able to breathe, who won't need you to perform or shrink, who will match your silence with their own presence, your depth with understanding, your observation with "I see it too." I was at a bar once, sitting alone, convinced I was forgettable. Someone walked up and said, "My friends think you look intimidating. I think you just look like you're actually here." I'd been waiting my whole life for someone who could tell the difference. They're rare, but they're looking for you too. If this hits something you've felt but couldn't name, drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. The question isn't whether you should change. It's whether you're willing to stay exactly who you are while you wait for them to show up. Follow for more on the psychology of quiet intensity.